Hi, I'm Lisa from Vintage Caravan Magazine. I'm here at the Garter Belts and Gasoline Nostalgia Festival at Mount Tambourine.
And how long have you been editor of the Vintage Caravan magazine?
We've been running for about a year now.
And what got you into it?
My obsession with vintage caravans. I've been a freelance writer and journalist for about 10 years, and I love cars and rockabilly music and the whole retro scene. But caravans were always my obsession. Ever since I've been a kid, I think I've had this dream about travelling around with a caravan. Initially when I was young it was a horse-drawn gypsy caravan, but it evolved as I got into cars. So I think I spent some time living in a caravan for a while after my marriage split up, and I was a bit, down and out, if you were. And I ended up in a caravan park for a while, and everyone was like, "Oh, I feel so terrible for you. It must be so bad." And in actual fact, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I realised that I didn't need very much to be happy. That living in a van gave me that little sense of security and space. It was like my little home, but there was no mortgage to worry about. There was no rates to worry about. It was just, and I'm a bit of an adventurer. I'm a traveller at heart, and if I wanted to be somewhere else, I could just pack up and move on. So yeah.
So it's all about the simple life.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it is for me appreciating not needing very much. I think we get a bit swept up in materialism these days. We all want bigger, fancier houses and bigger, fancier TVs, and the way I see it is that people are just working harder and harder and harder to pay for bigger and fancier things. Where's the leisure time? Where's the time to chill out and enjoy all the effort? You know, the work should be so that you have time out, not so that you have more stuff.
Tell me about your caravan.
Vicky.
Yeah, Vicky.
I love her. Vicky is probably about my sixth vintage caravan. I've bought and sold quite a few. I started off with an older one that I went all the way up to Cairns and back in, which was a bit of an adventure. Windows exploded, all sorts of strange things happened, and she wasn't quite up to the job. It also didn't have a kitchen in it, so I thought, well, I need one with a kitchen in it. It just so happened I was online one night, and there she was, and it was completely original, been stored in a shed for 40 years. It's a 1965 Viscount Dural van. They call it the Honeymooners Special because it had 2 single beds down the end, and that's what honeymooners did back then. Honeymoon meant something different in the 60s than it does now.
Very Doris Day and Rock Hudson.
Very much so, yeah. It's more about the getting to know you before you get to that stage of life. So it's a 15-foot, it's all aluminium on the outside. It was quite oxidised when I got it, so it looked like it had been painted white. But I got stuck in with some purple polish, and now she shines beautifully. It originally had a yellow stripe down the side, which looked really great when I was bringing it back home from Sydney, and we stopped off at the Big Banana and got a photo with the banana sitting on top of the van, and that started the van with the big series of photographs, which I now have just all sorts of fruit and animals and things sitting on top of the caravan. And I decided I wanted it pink. Originally I wanted to go for a red, black and white theme because I love the whole rock and roll theme. That's sort of what I wear a lot of. But people always ask me, why pink, why pink? I think it came from 2 things. One was, when I was a little girl, I was a total tomboy. I wasn't girly, I wasn't pink, I wasn't frilly at all. And after my marriage split up, I sort of really wanted to embrace that part of myself that I'd never really expressed before. The other reason was I read somewhere that they were painting prison walls pink because they'd done research on colours and the effects on people, and pink was found to be the most soothing, calming and relaxing colour. So I thought, well, that was the feeling I wanted to evoke inside my caravan, so I went for pink. I got a sample pot of pink from Mitre 10, little pot this big for $7, and I started painting a little bit on the side, and I was like, no, I can't quite get the full impact here, I better keep going. And next thing you know, I painted the whole caravan with a $7 sample pot. It has the pink stripe down the side, and the inside is just, I painted it white, I did the floor up. I've gradually, added to it as time goes on, and it's sort of become a bit wild now, but I love it.
Now, you said you started the Vintage Caravan magazine just because you love vintage caravans. But it must have been a huge enterprise to get started.
Oh, yeah.
And you've been a journalist, so you knew what publishing was about, obviously.
Yeah.
Are there enough stories out there?
It's amazing how many people ask me that. If anything, will the stories ever stop? You know, I've been absolutely flooded with people who, as soon as they've seen the magazine, all of a sudden all these stories are just coming out from everywhere. I mean, there are so many more people doing it than anyone realised until there was a magazine for them to express it. Yeah, there's no end. I've probably got enough backlog of stories for the next 10 years worth of magazines, and they just keep on coming. I'd say about for every one caravan I feature in the magazine, there's probably about 10 more just being done up and put on the road for the first time, you know, being restored, coming out of paddocks, coming out of sheds, and then they change hands and somebody else does something different to them, so you get a whole new story again. So I don't know how many vintage caravans there are out there. There's thousands and thousands, and we've also extended overseas as well. So we've got a market in New Zealand and America, so we cover other crazy caravans from all around the world as well as the ones in Australia.
Is there another vintage caravan magazine in the world?
No.
That's
No.
amazing, isn't it? Did you know that when you started it?
No, not really. I did kind of look, because originally my goal had been not to necessarily start a magazine but to go and work for one. I thought, wouldn't that be the greatest job in the world? If I could just write about vintage caravans every day, I'd be so happy. So yeah, I looked for another one and didn't find any. So yeah, my friends who got sick of me talking about it, they said, oh Lisa, just do it yourself. So I did, but yeah, it's the only one in the whole world, so it's kind of crazy.
So is it easy to find in newsagents if you've got who's your distributor?
Gordon and Gotch distribute it.
Excellent.
So you know, they do all the bigger magazines. It's been hard to work out where to put it, because there was no other vintage caravan magazine. They were kind of like, well, where do we market it, you know? It's been based on a lot of hot rod magazines as to where they put it. A lot of newsagents in the early days who didn't think there'd be a market for it just would send it back. But now, obviously, people are going in and asking for it, so it's just every issue we send out more and more and more copies. I think 1,500 newsagents around Australia have it now.
And you must get a lot of subscribers, because it is a beautiful looking magazine, and once you get one or two, you think you want to collect them. It's almost like a collector's item, each magazine.
Definitely. I know. Every time a new issue comes out, I get people calling me up saying, oh, I just found your magazine for the first time. How do I get all the back issues, and can I subscribe? So that's generally the most common thing. So yeah, I've had to reprint my issue 1 because of that, because everyone wanted the whole set. And originally, the original print run sold out, and I was going to just leave it at that, and everyone was so disappointed that they all wanted the issue 1, even though I was a little bit embarrassed of it because it was my first one, and you know, it's like the first one of everything, it's not perfect. So yeah, but I've had to reprint that, so yeah, definitely a lot of support. I never even contemplated, I wrote a whole business plan up when I decided to start the magazine, and I didn't even factor in subscriptions. I never subscribed to a magazine in my life, so I never even realised that people would, so it's blown me away. I had subscribers signing up before the magazine even came out, so that was a real pleasure.
But I should point out that it's not just a magazine about caravans, it's about lifestyle, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've got movie reviews, and it's a little bit like Atomic Cafe. You've got a little bit of everything, you know, recipes and how to find bits and pieces for your caravan. And
restoration tips. We've got a page I love called Trailer Treasure, which is just little knickknacks and retro things that you can find in shops, or that I've picked up from, you know, op shopping and garage sailing, because I always say vintage caravanners are always treasure hunters. We love going and finding all those old things and rescuing them and bringing them back to life and displaying them in our vans, and so there's always features on that in the magazine. And basically anything that any of my readers wants to write into me about, like I keep saying it's not my magazine, it's a vintage caravanners magazine. So I'm happy to talk about whatever other interests and things that people are doing. It's got travel features, because, you know, we want to be out there enjoying our vans. It's not just about having them sit in the yard. They look cute sitting in the yard. We've got features on people who are running market stalls from them, all sorts of different businesses that run from vintage caravans. Yeah, we have had poetry in there. If it fits into that lifestyle of simpler times, happy times, nostalgia, retro, fashion, music, anything, cars, lots of cool cars, of course.